Greetings, chosen one. Tonight we stand at the threshold of something truly divine. The time has come for your transformation. The Lord has spoken, and His message is clear. I will restore to you what was lost. This is not just a verse. It's a divine decree. Yes, you heard correctly. For many, suffering is a part of life that feels heavy, dark, and almost unbearable. It seems like an obstacle we are called to endure, and sometimes we wonder if it has any purpose. But I'm here to remind you, chosen one, that suffering is not the end of the road. It is the gateway to something far greater. You are being prepared for divine transformation, and in this very moment, God is turning your pain into an opportunity. This is where your story of restoration begins, not in spite of the suffering you faced, but because of it. So before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. This space is one of transformation, where pain becomes a stepping stone to something far greater than what you ever thought possible. Your journey is just beginning, and I am honored to walk with you through this divine process. The transformation you're about to undergo may not be immediate, and it may not come in the way you expect, but one thing is for certain: God will transform your pain into something divine. The suffering you face today is not a sign of God's abandonment. It is the proving ground where your strength, faith, and trust in the divine plan are tested. This is not a random act. It is a part of God's divine design for your life. You are being shaped into something stronger, something more aligned with the divine purpose He has for you. You see, chosen one, pain is not the end. It is only the beginning of your divine opportunity. Pain creates the space for growth. It is in the midst of suffering that God calls you to lean on Him, to trust, to surrender, and to open your heart to the divine transformation that is already in motion. This process of turning suffering into opportunity starts right here, right now. Your transformation is not a distant dream, chosen one. It's happening right now, and the pain you feel will soon become the catalyst for something far greater. Trust in this divine plan, for the Lord is with you in every moment of this journey. The nature of suffering is one of the most profound and universal experiences that shapes every human being. Pain, loss, and hardship are not selective. No one is exempt from the trials of life. And yet, chosen one, if you pause to reflect, you will see that suffering is not the enemy it is often made out to be. In fact, it is often one of the most transformative parts of your spiritual journey. We view pain and suffering as obstacles, things to be avoided at all costs. But what if, instead of seeing suffering as a punishment or an unfortunate event, we began to see it as a divine opportunity for growth, a gift from God to shape us into the person He has always intended us to be? When suffering arises in your life, it may initially feel like an uninvited guest, an overwhelming force that you would rather not face. It can feel as if it is something that interrupts your peace, disturbs your plans, and forces you to confront your deepest fears. It may seem like something that only brings harm, pain, and confusion. But chosen one, if you shift your perspective, you will begin to see that suffering can serve a higher purpose in your life, even when it feels difficult to understand. In God's perfect plan, suffering is not random. It is a tool He uses to bring you closer to Him, to refine your heart, and to prepare you for a greater purpose. In the world, suffering is often viewed as something that must be avoided at all costs, and it's no surprise why. We are conditioned to believe that happiness, comfort, and security are the ultimate goals. Yet, as you walk this divine journey, chosen one, you will find that suffering isn't about taking something from you. It's about giving you something greater in return. Pain, loss, and struggle reveal to us the depth of our dependence on God and teach us lessons that we cannot learn through joy alone. They are like the sharp edges of a sword, honing and shaping us, carving away the impurities in our hearts and making us more aligned with the image of Christ. We are taught in the Bible that suffering is not meaningless. It is part of the human experience. In Romans chapter 5, 3-4, it is written, "We also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance character, and character hope." These words remind us that suffering is not an isolated experience, it is part of a process. Through pain, we learn to persevere. Perseverance builds our character, and character in turn gives us hope. This is not just a promise for the future, but a divine principle that shapes who we are today. When we think of suffering, we often think of physical pain, but suffering is not just limited to the body, it encompasses every aspect of our being. There is emotional suffering, spiritual suffering, and mental suffering. It can come in many forms: the loss of a loved one, the ending of a relationship, the feeling of betrayal or rejection, financial struggles, or even a sense of spiritual emptiness. No matter how suffering manifests, it is never without divine significance. It serves a purpose if we allow it to. In the midst of suffering, we often ask, "Why me?" We question why we are experiencing such hardship, and sometimes it may feel as though we are being punished. But the truth is that suffering is not always the result of wrongdoing or sin. Sometimes suffering is allowed to enter our lives to purify us, to help us grow, and to reveal God's glory through our journey. It is not punishment, it is divine preparation. Through suffering, God is refining you. He is creating a deeper capacity for His love, building your strength, and revealing areas of your heart that need healing. When you face suffering, remember that it is not sent to break you, it is sent to shape you. God never wastes a hurt. The struggles you experience are opportunities for God to work in you and through you. Every trial, every tear, every heartache is part of the larger story that God is telling with your life. And in that story, suffering is not the final chapter, it is the chapter that sets the stage for the transformation that is to come. Consider the story of Joseph in the Bible. Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers, wrongly imprisoned and abandoned in a foreign land. His suffering was intense, but Joseph's pain was never without purpose. Through his suffering, Joseph was positioned to save his family and ultimately an entire nation. His suffering was not in vain. It was part of the divine plan that led him to greatness. Through pain and hardship, Joseph was refined, built up, and prepared to fulfill God's purpose in a way that he never could have imagined. The same is true for you, chosen one. Your suffering is not in vain. It is the divine preparation that will lead you to a greater purpose. And so, how do we transform suffering into opportunity? The first step is to shift our perspective. Instead of viewing suffering as something to escape or resist, we must learn to embrace it as part of God's divine plan. This does not mean that suffering is easy or enjoyable. It means that we choose to trust that God is working in us through every trial and challenge. When you choose to see suffering through the lens of faith, you can transform it from something painful into something purposeful. When we suffer, we often grow in ways that we never could without the struggle. Pain has a way of teaching us things that comfort never will. It teaches us patience, resilience, and the value of dependence on God. It drives us to our knees to prayer and to a deeper relationship with the divine. In the depths of our suffering, we find the strength we never knew we had, and we discover God's presence in ways we may have never experienced in times of ease. So, chosen one, when suffering comes into your life, do not fear it. Do not run from it. Instead, lean into it. Trust that through this pain, God is molding you into the person you were always meant to be. The opportunity is not in avoiding the struggle, it is in embracing it with faith, knowing that God will use it to transform your heart, your mind, and your spirit. This is where true transformation begins. Your suffering is not the end of the story, it is the beginning of something greater. Trust in God's purpose and know that He is transforming your pain into divine opportunity. The power of perspective is what transforms suffering into opportunity. It's easy to fall into despair when you're faced with pain, but the truth is that your perspective on suffering can change everything. When we face hardship, it often feels as though the weight of the world is pressing down on us, and it's natural to want to escape that pressure. But chosen one, if you can shift your perspective and view suffering through the eyes of faith, you will see that it has the potential to propel you into a deeper connection with God and a more purposeful life. Pain and suffering, when viewed in the right light, are not obstacles. They are opportunities. They are divine invitations to grow closer to God, to trust more deeply in His plan, and to learn the lessons that can only be taught through the refining fire of hardship. It is said that gold must be refined by fire in order to reach its purest form. Similarly, you are being refined by your suffering, purified and made stronger by each trial you face. While the fire may burn, it is ultimately shaping you into something of greater value. It's easy to view suffering as something that's happening to us, something outside of our control. When we take on that perspective, we may feel victimized by life's challenges, and we may even start to believe that we are being punished. However, when we look at suffering from a divine perspective, we understand that God is not trying to break us. He is shaping us. Suffering becomes a tool for growth, not a weapon of destruction. It's in those moments of struggle that God reveals the deepest parts of Himself to us and invites us into a closer, more intimate relationship with Him. The Apostle Paul talks about this shift in perspective in Romans chapter 5, 3-4. Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope. Here Paul is teaching us that suffering is not pointless. It is part of a divine cycle of growth. Each trial you face builds your perseverance, which builds your character and ultimately leads you to a place of hope. It's important to note that this hope is not based on circumstances. It's a deep, abiding trust in the Lord's faithfulness and His ability to restore all things. Changing your perspective on suffering doesn't mean that you will instantly feel better or that the pain will go away. It doesn't mean that you will suddenly stop hurting. What it means, chosen one, is that you will begin to see the suffering as something that has purpose. You will learn to see the hand of God in the midst of your hardship, guiding you, strengthening you, and preparing you for what lies ahead. When you view suffering through the lens of God's purpose, you can see it as an opportunity for growth, for transformation, and for divine alignment. One of the most powerful ways to shift your perspective is through gratitude. Even in the midst of pain, there is always something to be thankful for. It may not seem obvious at first, but God's goodness is present in every moment, even in the struggle. When you choose to focus on the things you are grateful for, even while you're in the midst of suffering, you shift your focus from the pain to the blessings. Gratitude is a powerful tool that can transform your mindset and align your heart with the divine plan. It shifts your perspective from scarcity to abundance, from despair to hope. This doesn't mean that you need to deny your pain or pretend that everything is okay when it isn't. Acknowledging your suffering is an important part of the process. But what it does mean, chosen one, is that you choose to believe that there is more to your story than just the pain. You choose to believe that God is working all things together for your good, even in the midst of your struggle. You choose to trust that the suffering you're experiencing is not the final chapter, but part of a larger story of redemption and transformation. Shifting your perspective on suffering also means letting go of the idea of being a victim. It means choosing to take responsibility for how you respond to pain and difficulty. While you may not have control over the suffering itself, you always have control over how you respond to it. You can choose to grow from it, to learn from it, and to use it as an opportunity to become the person God has called you to be. This choice, chosen one, is a powerful act of faith. It is saying, I trust that God will use this for my good. I trust that He is with me in this moment, and I trust that He will bring me through to the other side. Remember, chosen one, that God is not the author of pain and suffering, but He is the author of your redemption. While suffering is a natural part of life, God's plan for you is one of restoration, healing, and transformation. He is using your pain to shape you, refine you, and prepare you for the blessings that are ahead. It is in the midst of your suffering that you are being transformed into the person you were always meant to be. Your character is being forged, your perseverance is being strengthened, and your hope is being made solid. So, chosen one, I encourage you to shift your perspective on suffering. See it not as an obstacle, but as an opportunity for growth, transformation, and divine alignment. Trust that in every season of suffering, God is working behind the scenes to bring about something greater than you can imagine. Let your perspective change, and with it, let your faith grow, knowing that your suffering is a tool in God's hands, shaping you into the person you are destined to become. Embracing the struggle is often the key to transforming suffering into an opportunity. It may sound counterintuitive, but embracing the difficulties that life presents is one of the most empowering choices you can make. Instead of running from hardship or resisting it, you are invited to face it head-on with faith and courage. It is in this act of embracing the struggle that you align yourself with the divine process of transformation. The divine purpose for your life is not found in ease or comfort. It is found in the moments of challenge and adversity. God does not promise that your journey will be without struggle. In fact, He guarantees that there will be trials, obstacles, and suffering along the way. But these moments are not a sign of abandonment. They are opportunities for spiritual growth, for refinement, and for a deeper connection with the divine. When you choose to embrace the struggle, you acknowledge that God is with you, strengthening you and guiding you through the toughest moments. Every struggle you face is an opportunity to lean on Him more deeply, to trust His timing, and to grow in faith. Embracing the struggle means accepting that pain and hardship are a natural part of the human experience. It does not mean seeking out suffering or glorifying it, but rather recognizing that the struggles you face have a divine purpose. These struggles are not meant to destroy you. They are meant to build you, to prepare you for the blessings that are ahead. As you walk through the struggles with faith, you learn to trust God more deeply and understand His character in ways that you could not have known without the challenge. When you embrace the struggle, you also release the need for control. Often the desire to control outcomes can cause anxiety, frustration, and resistance when things don't go according to our plans. But the truth is that many aspects of life are beyond our control. What you can control, chosen one, is how you respond to the struggles and challenges that come your way. By choosing to embrace the struggle, you are choosing to let go of your need for control and trust that God is working everything for your good. In embracing the struggle, you also release the fear of failure. The fear of failure often holds us back from fully engaging with the struggles that come our way. We fear that if we fail, it will be a sign that we are not worthy, not capable, or not good enough. But God has not called you to succeed in every area of life on your own terms. He has called you to trust in His plan, to learn from every experience, and to grow through every trial. The struggle is not something to be feared. It is a process of learning, growing, and evolving into the person you are meant to be. One of the most profound truths about embracing the struggle is that it leads to personal transformation. When you face hardship with the right mindset, when you lean on God for strength and guidance, the struggle becomes the very tool that refines your character. It is through the struggles of life that you learn perseverance, humility, and resilience. You become stronger, not in spite of your struggles, but because of them. Every trial you face is an opportunity to grow deeper in your faith and trust in God. The struggle also refines your relationship with God. It is easy to trust in God when everything is going well, when life is smooth and predictable. But it is in the struggle that your relationship with Him deepens. In the moments of hardship, you lean on Him more heavily, seek His guidance more earnestly, and rely on His strength more fully. These struggles bring you closer to God, and through them you come to know His love, grace, and provision in ways you never could in times of ease. Embracing the struggle is a choice. It is a choice to accept the hardship that comes with faith and trust, knowing that God is using it for your good. It is a choice to walk through the fire, knowing that on the other side you will emerge refined, stronger, and more aligned with your divine purpose. The struggle is not your enemy, it is your teacher, your guide, and your companion in the journey toward restoration. So, chosen one, I encourage you to embrace the struggles that come your way. Know that they are not without purpose. The divine is using every challenge to shape you, to refine you, and to prepare you for the life He has planned for you. With every struggle, you are one step closer to the transformation that is waiting for you. Trust that God is walking with you through it all, and that in His perfect timing, you will emerge from the struggle stronger and more aligned with His will for your life. Remember, chosen one, that every struggle you face is an opportunity for growth. Embrace it and allow it to shape you into the person you were always meant to be. Trust in the divine process and know that God is with you through every challenge, refining you and preparing you for what is to come. Finding meaning in pain is one of the most transformative aspects of the restoration process. When suffering strikes, it's easy to become overwhelmed by the loss, the grief, or the confusion that comes with it. But chosen one, what if you saw your pain not as a meaningless hardship, but as an opportunity to uncover deeper truths about yourself, your purpose, and your divine calling? The Lord never wastes a hurt, and within every moment of pain, there is a divine opportunity to grow, learn, and transform. It's natural to ask, why am I suffering? Or what purpose does this pain serve? In times of hardship, we often struggle to see beyond the immediate pain. But the key to transforming pain into opportunity is found in understanding that suffering is not a random event. It is a part of the divine process. In fact, some of life's most painful experiences are the very things that shape us into the person we are meant to be. The first step in finding meaning in pain is to remember that suffering is part of God's divine plan. The Bible tells us in Romans 8:28, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. Even in the darkest moments of our lives, God is at work. He uses pain, hardship, and struggle to refine us, strengthen us, and draw us closer to Him. What may seem like a devastating loss or an unbearable burden is in fact part of the divine design that leads us to something greater. Pain, in its many forms, has the power to teach us profound lessons. It teaches us patience, humility, compassion, and dependence on God. When we go through suffering, we often find ourselves drawn to God in ways we never would have been without it. Pain can break us open, making space for God to fill us with His love, grace, and strength. In these moments, we experience God's nearness, His comfort, and His wisdom in ways that transcend our understanding. The depth of His presence is often revealed to us most clearly when we are in the midst of struggle. Finding meaning in pain is not about minimizing the difficulty of the experience, Nor is it about pretending to be strong when we are weak. It's about acknowledging that God is present in our pain and that He is using it to bring about transformation. The struggles we face can shape us into more resilient, compassionate, and faithful individuals. They are not just setbacks, they are opportunities to grow into a more Christ-like version of ourselves. Look back. Chosen one, at the times in your life when you experienced pain and suffering. You may not have understood it in the moment, but do you see how those experiences shaped you into who you are today? Maybe it was a painful relationship that taught you the value of self-worth, or a job loss that propelled you toward a more fulfilling career. Perhaps it was a time of illness or grief that deepened your relationship with God and taught you to trust Him in ways you never thought possible. While the pain was difficult, the lessons you learned were priceless. The meaning behind your pain is often revealed in hindsight as you look back at the way God worked through it to bring about something greater. But even if you cannot see the meaning right now, trust that God is at work. The meaning of your pain is not always immediately obvious, but every hardship you face serves a purpose in God's divine plan. Trust that in time you will see how this experience has shaped you for the better and aligned you with your true calling. Another way to find meaning in pain is by understanding that God uses our suffering to help others. As you walk through your own struggles and come out the other side, you will have the opportunity to comfort and guide others who are facing similar challenges. In 2 Corinthians chapter 1:4, Paul writes, "He comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves receive from God." The pain you have endured will allow you to offer empathy, understanding, and hope to others who are struggling. Your story of restoration and healing can be a powerful testament to God's faithfulness, inspiring others to trust in His promises. As you find meaning in your pain, you also begin to see the opportunity in it. Pain can bring clarity. It can strip away distractions and make you focus on what truly matters: your relationship with God, your purpose, and the people around you. When you are in the midst of pain, you are often forced to confront the things in your life that need to change. Pain can lead you to make decisions that bring you closer to your true self, to release what no longer serves you, and to embrace the things that matter most. Choosing to see the meaning in pain is not a denial of the hurt you feel. It is an acknowledgement of the greater purpose God has for your life. It is trusting that God is with you in the midst of your suffering, and that He is using it to shape you into something stronger and more aligned with His divine purpose. So, chosen one, choose to see your pain as an opportunity for growth, transformation, and divine alignment. Trust that God is with you in every moment of suffering, and that He will reveal the meaning behind it in time. Embrace the lessons that pain brings, and know that God is turning every hardship into something beautiful. You are being refined by the fire of God's love, and through it, you are becoming more like Christ. Remember, chosen one, that pain is not without purpose. In every moment of suffering, God is at work, shaping you, refining you, and preparing you for greater things. Choose to trust that your pain will become an opportunity for transformation, and that through it, God will bring about something greater than you could ever imagine. Faith as a source of strength is one of the most powerful tools you possess as you navigate the transformation of pain into opportunity. When suffering enters your life, it often shakes you to your core, threatening to undo everything you've built, everything you've believed. Yet, in those very moments, faith becomes the unshakable anchor that holds you steady. Faith doesn't just sustain you through the storms of life, it empowers you to rise above them and find divine purpose in the midst of your trials. Faith is the bridge between suffering and opportunity. It is the belief that even when things seem impossible, God is at work in your life, using every struggle to prepare you for something greater. When you have faith, you can see beyond the immediate pain and trust that the suffering you are experiencing is not in vain. It is part of a divine process, one that is transforming you into the person you are meant to be. The strength of your faith lies in the trust that God is always with you, guiding you through the pain. It's easy to lose faith when everything seems to be falling apart, when your world is turned upside down, and when the answers you seek are nowhere to be found. But the Lord's promise is clear. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Your faith becomes the lens through which you see the bigger picture, even when the present moment is filled with uncertainty. Faith allows you to trust in God's timing. It allows you to rest in the knowledge that He is in control and that He has a divine purpose for your pain. When we rely solely on our own understanding and perspective, we are often overwhelmed by the weight of suffering. But when we lean on God's infinite wisdom, we are reminded that our trials are not random. They are part of His perfect plan. By choosing to place your faith in God, you choose to trust that He will turn your pain into something beautiful, something that aligns with His greater purpose for your life. When you face suffering with faith, you are not denying the reality of your pain. You are simply choosing to believe that God is bigger than the pain. You are choosing to walk forward in trust, knowing that He is at work even when you cannot see the results immediately. Faith gives you the courage to keep going when you want to give up, the strength to endure when the road is long and uncertain. It helps you to look beyond the momentary struggles and to see them as part of a larger divine tapestry that is being woven together with your life. Faith is also the key to seeing opportunity where others only see hardship. In the midst of suffering, it is easy to become fixated on what is wrong, on what is lost, or on what is painful. But faith opens your eyes to see the possibilities in every situation. It allows you to see that even in your pain, there is a divine purpose unfolding. Faith gives you the ability to recognize opportunities for growth, for learning, and for transformation, even when your circumstances don't seem favorable. Through faith, you begin to understand that your pain is not something that has come to defeat you. It is something that God is using to refine you. It is shaping you, building your character, and preparing you for the greater calling He has for your life. Faith transforms your pain into purpose. It gives you the strength to persevere, the courage to embrace the challenges, and the hope to believe that your suffering will not be the end of the story, but the beginning of something greater. The story of Job in the Bible is a powerful example of faith in the midst of suffering. Job lost everything: his wealth, his health, and his family. Yet through it all, Job never lost his faith in God. He wrestled with his pain, he questioned his circumstances, but he never doubted God's goodness. In the end, God restored everything Job had lost and more. His faith through suffering not only led to his personal restoration, but also became a testimony of God's faithfulness to others. Job's story reminds us that our faith during suffering is not just for our own growth. It becomes a testimony to others of God's faithfulness, His love, and His power. In your journey, chosen, one faith will be the key that unlocks the door to restoration. It will be the strength that sustains you when the road is hard, the hope that carries you through the dark times, and the belief that in the end, all things will be made right. Your faith in God's plan and purpose for your life will turn your suffering into something greater than you could have imagined. So, chosen one, lean into your faith. Trust that God is at work in every moment, even when you can't see it. Allow faith to be the strength that carries you through the pain, knowing that through it, God is transforming you into the person you were always meant to be. Trust that your suffering is not in vain, and that through it you are becoming more aligned with His divine purpose. Your faith will turn your pain into opportunity, and in time you will see the restoration that God has promised you. Remember, chosen one, faith is not just about believing in what you can see. It is about trusting in what God is doing, even when you can't see it yet. Your faith will sustain you, strengthen you, and transform your pain into divine opportunity. Healing through surrender is a pivotal moment in the transformation of pain into opportunity. Often when we face hardship and suffering, our instinct is to fight against it. We try to control the situation, resist the pain, and find ways to escape or fix it on our own. But chosen one, true healing and restoration come not through our own efforts, but through surrendering to God's divine will. Surrendering doesn't mean giving up. It means releasing control and trusting that God's plan for your life is far greater than your own. It means letting go of the need to fix everything and allowing God to heal, restore, and transform you in His perfect timing. Surrendering is often one of the most difficult steps in the restoration process. It requires humility and the willingness to admit that we cannot do it all on our own. Suffering, while painful, often reveals our own limitations and our need for divine help. In moments of pain, we want to control everything: our emotions, the situation, and the outcome. But the true power of transformation comes when we surrender our desires, our expectations, and our control to God. When we surrender, we open ourselves to His healing touch, allowing Him to work in ways that are beyond our comprehension. The act of surrender is not a passive one, it is an active choice. It is a choice to trust that God is with you in your suffering, that He understands your pain, and that He is at work even when you cannot see it. Surrendering to God means relinquishing the need to understand everything, to have all the answers, or to have the situation fixed immediately. It means trusting that God knows what is best for you, and that His plan for your life will lead to a greater outcome than you could have ever planned on your own. When you surrender, you allow God to heal the broken places inside you. Healing cannot occur when we hold on to our pain, our anger, or our fear. These emotions are natural, but when we choose to keep them locked inside, we prevent ourselves from experiencing the fullness of God's restoration. Surrendering means releasing these burdens to God, allowing Him to carry the weight of them for you. It is a release of the pain and the hurt that you've been holding on to, trusting that God will transform them into something beautiful and purposeful. The beauty of surrender is that it opens up space for God to do His work. When we let go of our own plans and allow God to take over, we give Him the freedom to move in ways we cannot predict or control. He can heal the wounds we've carried for years, restore relationships that seemed beyond repair, and bring peace to our hearts that we never thought possible. Surrendering is an invitation for God to step into the pain and take it from us, replacing it with His peace, His love, and His grace. One of the most profound aspects of surrender is that it allows us to experience a deeper relationship with God. In times of suffering, we may feel distant from Him, wondering why He hasn't answered our prayers or why we're facing such hardship. But it is through surrender that we discover the depths of God's love. When we release our own desires and plans to Him, we open ourselves up to a deeper trust in His perfect will. Surrender invites us to draw closer to the Lord, to listen for His guidance, and to rest in His presence, knowing that He is with us in every moment. Surrender is not a one-time event, it is a daily practice. Every day, you are invited to release your worries, your fears, and your need for control to God. Each moment of suffering is an opportunity to surrender, to trust that God is working in your life, and to allow Him to lead you through the pain. The more you surrender, the more you will experience the divine peace and healing that only God can provide. As you surrender, chosen one, you will also find that your suffering begins to lose its grip on you. When you surrender to God's will, you stop fighting against the pain and start allowing it to become a part of your transformation. Suffering, in this sense, becomes a tool that God uses to refine you, to build your character, and to align you with His divine purpose. Through surrender, you come to realize that the pain you once tried to avoid or escape is actually the path to your greatest healing. It is through surrender that you are freed from the burden of carrying your suffering alone. You are not meant to bear the weight of pain on your own. God is with you, and He invites you to surrender it all to Him, trusting that His plan is perfect, His timing is flawless, and His restoration is already in motion. So, chosen one, I invite you to surrender your pain to God today. Trust that He is working in ways that you cannot yet see, and allow Him to transform your suffering into divine opportunity. Release the need to control and let God's healing touch restore you. In this act of surrender, you will find freedom, peace, and divine alignment with God's plan for your life. Remember, chosen one, surrender is not giving up. It is giving over. Trust that when you surrender your pain to God, He will transform it into something far greater than you could ever imagine. Let go and allow Him to heal and restore you. The refining power of trials is one of the most profound gifts of suffering. When we go through hardship, it often feels as though everything is being broken down around us. We question why these trials are happening and whether they will ever end. But chosen one, the truth is that trials are not meant to break you, they are meant to refine you. They are the forge in which your character, your faith, and your purpose are strengthened. Much like gold is purified by fire, your soul is refined through the fires of life's challenges. At first, trials can feel like an insurmountable burden, especially when they seem to drag on without relief. But when you step back and view them through the lens of divine purpose, you will see that they are not random or meaningless. God uses trials to mold you, shape you, and prepare you for something greater. In times of pain, it's easy to lose sight of this truth, but as you trust God through the struggle, you begin to see the beauty in the process of refinement. The process of refinement can be intense. Gold must go through intense heat to separate the impurities from the pure metal. Similarly, in our own lives, the struggles and hardships we face separate the parts of ourselves that are not aligned with God's will. We all have areas of our lives that need to be purified: old habits, negative thinking, unhealthy attachments, or even fears that hold us back from our full potential. Through trials, God reveals these areas to us, allowing us to confront them and release them. The refining process is not easy, but it is necessary for our growth. It is important to recognize that trials are not a punishment. They are part of God's perfect plan to refine and purify us. When you face hardship, it may feel as though God has abandoned you or that He is being unkind. But know this, chosen one, God is always with you, even in the midst of your suffering. He is using these trials to refine you, to build your strength, and to deepen your relationship with Him. These trials are shaping you into the person you were always meant to be. During trials, it can be tempting to run from the pain or try to fix everything on our own. But the refining power of trials comes when we lean on God for strength. It is when we surrender our need for control, trusting in His wisdom and timing, that the refining process leads to transformation. Trials teach us how to rely on God, fully knowing that we cannot do it alone. It is in our weakness that God's strength is made perfect. The more we lean into Him during these times, the more refined we become. The trials you face also refine your character. In the midst of suffering, you are given the opportunity to develop virtues like patience, humility, perseverance, and compassion. When you face difficulties, it's natural to want to give up, to complain, or to become bitter. But God is using these moments to develop your inner strength, to make you more like Christ. The person you become in the midst of struggle will be stronger, more compassionate, and more resilient than the person you were before. As you continue through the trials, chosen one, remember that you are not alone in this process. God is actively working in your life to refine you, to purify your heart, and to prepare you for the future He has planned for you. You may not see the end result in the moment, but trust that every hardship is a step toward a greater purpose. God's refining work is making you into someone who can carry the weight of His blessings, someone who is prepared for the divine opportunities that are on the horizon. This process of refinement leads to a deeper understanding of your divine calling. The more you are refined through hardship, the more clearly you will see the path that God has set before you. You will develop a stronger sense of purpose and a clearer vision for your life. The trials that once felt like obstacles will become the very things that propel you forward into the fullness of God's plan. So, chosen one, embrace the refining power of trials. Know that each challenge you face is part of the divine process of purification. Trust that God is using these trials to shape you into the person He has called you to be. And remember, through the fire of hardship, you are being made stronger, more resilient, and more aligned with God's purpose for your life. The refining process is not easy, but it is necessary. It will lead you to a place of greater purpose, greater strength, and greater alignment with God's will. Trust that through every trial, God is refining you into a vessel of His divine glory. Embrace the struggles, knowing that they are shaping you into the person you were always meant to be. With God by your side, you will come through the fire stronger than before, ready to embrace the blessings He has for you. The beauty of brokenness is one of the most profound revelations in the process of transforming pain into opportunity. We live in a world that often values strength, perfection, and success. And because of this, we may feel compelled to hide our brokenness. We may try to present ourselves as whole, as complete, hiding the cracks and wounds that life has inflicted upon us. However, chosen one, it is through our brokenness that God's glory is revealed. It is in our most vulnerable and broken moments that God does His most beautiful work. When you experience pain, loss, or betrayal, it can feel like your heart has been shattered, your spirit broken. The pieces of your life seem scattered, and you wonder how you can ever be whole again. But it is in this very brokenness that God meets you with His grace, love, and healing. Just as a broken vase can be repaired and transformed into something even more beautiful through a process called kintsugi, so too does God take our brokenness and restore us into something even greater than we were before. Our cracks become the very places where His light shines through. Brokenness does not diminish your worth, it enhances it. When you experience suffering and pain, it doesn't mean that you are unworthy, less than, or discarded by God. On the contrary, it means that you are being shaped, refined, and prepared for something greater. Your brokenness is part of the journey that brings you closer to your true self, and ultimately to the divine purpose that God has ordained for you. The Lord's power is made perfect in our weakness. When we are broken, we are forced to rely on God more fully. We no longer trust in our own strength, but we surrender to His power, knowing that He is the source of all healing and restoration. In our brokenness, we are able to experience His grace in a deeper way. The pain we feel becomes a doorway to a greater intimacy with God, a closeness that we might not have known had we never gone through the trial. It is through our brokenness that we learn to trust in God's provision, His healing, and His ability to make all things new. Just as a broken instrument can be tuned to create beautiful music, your brokenness can be used by God to create something beautiful and meaningful. The very things that caused you pain, whether they were personal losses, betrayals, or disappointments, can be transformed into opportunities to serve others, to grow deeper in your faith, and to experience God's restoration in ways you never thought possible. The broken places in your heart and soul are where God can pour out His healing love and grace, and through this process, you are made new. Embracing your brokenness means acknowledging that you are not perfect, and that's okay. It means that you recognize your limitations, your pain, and your vulnerabilities, and you bring them to God, trusting that He can use them for His glory. It's in the moments when you feel broken that God is able to mold you and shape you, bringing you closer to the person He has called you to be. Your brokenness is not something to hide or be ashamed of. It is something to embrace, because it is through it that you will experience the fullness of God's restorative power. The broken pieces of your life are not lost. They are part of the divine process of restoration. God does not discard what is broken. He lovingly picks up the pieces, heals the wounds, and makes something more beautiful and whole. Just as a broken pot can be mended into a unique work of art, God takes the brokenness in your life and creates a new masterpiece. He does not leave you in your broken state. He takes that brokenness, heals it, and transforms it into something that reflects His glory. When you allow God to heal your brokenness, you are giving Him permission to work in ways that you cannot yet understand. This process of healing and restoration may take time, but know that it is all part of the divine plan. You are being made new, chosen one. The brokenness you feel today is not the end of the story. It is simply a part of your transformation into the person God has called you to be. In moments of brokenness, remember that you are not alone. God is with you in your pain, walking beside you through the fire and guiding you toward healing and restoration. His love is unwavering, and His plan for your life is greater than anything you can imagine. Your brokenness is not the end. It is the beginning of a new chapter of divine restoration, where God's light will shine even brighter through the cracks. So, chosen one, embrace your brokenness. Know that it is in your weakness that God's strength is made perfect. Allow Him to heal your wounds, to restore your brokenness, and to make you whole again. Through your brokenness, you will experience the beauty of God's grace and the power of His love. Transformation of the heart is the most profound and lasting change that comes through suffering. When we experience pain, it's often because something within us needs to change to be made whole. Heartache, loss, and difficulty bring us face to face with our deepest emotions, fears, and vulnerabilities. It is in these raw, exposed moments that we are given the chance to experience deep and meaningful transformation. The process of transformation is not easy. It often involves facing uncomfortable truths about ourselves, confronting areas of our lives that need healing, and surrendering our old ways of thinking and being. But chosen one, it is through this heart transformation that you will become more aligned with your divine purpose and experience the fullness of God's restoration. The heart is where the essence of who we are lies. It is the seat of our emotions, desires, and deepest longings. When the heart is broken or burdened by pain, it can become closed off, resistant, and unwilling to receive love or trust. However, God's desire is to heal your heart, to mend the broken pieces, and to transform it into something more beautiful than you could imagine. The suffering you are facing is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of the healing that will lead to a more pure, whole, and loving heart. In the process of heart transformation, God works to remove the things that hinder His love from flowing freely through you. These could be areas of unforgiveness, bitterness, fear, or even selfishness. These emotional and spiritual blockages keep you from fully receiving God's love and hinder your ability to love others. The pain you are experiencing is often the result of these blockages being exposed. In the face of suffering, God invites you to confront these wounds and let Him heal them. As you open your heart to Him, He will remove the negative emotions that have been weighing you down and replace them with peace, love, and joy. Forgiveness is a key part of this transformation. The heart cannot be fully healed if it is still carrying the burden of unforgiveness. Whether it is forgiveness toward others who have hurt you or forgiveness toward yourself for past mistakes, letting go of resentment is essential for heart healing. Forgiveness is not easy. It requires humility, strength, and often a supernatural grace. But it is through forgiveness that you free your heart to fully receive the restoration that God has for you. You cannot move forward in your healing until you release the past and allow God to work in your heart. God's love is transformative, and when you allow Him to heal your heart, you are made new. The Bible speaks of God's healing power in many places, and in Ezekiel 36:26. He promises, "I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. I will take the heart of stone out of your flesh and give you a heart of flesh." This is the heart transformation God is offering you. He wants to replace your hardened, wounded heart with one that is tender, compassionate, and full of His love. This transformation enables you to experience life in a new way, to love more deeply, to forgive more freely, and to trust more fully in His divine plan. Heart transformation also involves letting go of fear. Fear often locks our hearts in a state of self-protection and isolation. It prevents us from opening ourselves up to others and to God. In times of suffering, fear can creep in, telling us that we are not safe, that we cannot trust, and that love is too risky. But when you surrender your fears to God and trust in His love, your heart is freed to experience His presence in a more profound way. Fear has no place in a heart that is fully surrendered to God's healing touch. When you trust in His perfect love, fear is replaced by peace, and your heart is made whole. The transformation of the heart also leads to a deeper connection with others. As your heart is healed, you become more compassionate and understanding toward those around you. The pain you've experienced allows you to empathize with others who are suffering, and this compassion becomes a source of healing for them. Your heart, once wounded and closed, is now open and full of God's love, a love that flows outward to those in need. In this way, your transformation becomes a blessing not only for you, but for the world around you. God's ultimate desire for your heart is that it would reflect His own full of love, compassion, and peace. As He transforms your heart through the process of suffering and restoration, He aligns you more closely with His divine nature. The more your heart becomes like His, the more you will experience His love in your life. This transformation doesn't just heal you, it heals those around you as well. As you undergo this transformation, remember that healing is a process. It takes time, patience, and trust in God's perfect timing. There will be days when you feel like you are not making progress, and moments when the pain feels too overwhelming. But trust, chosen one, that every moment of suffering is part of the divine process of heart healing. The Lord is working in you, shaping you, and transforming you into the person He has always intended you to be. So, chosen one, allow God to heal and transform your heart. Trust that He is removing the wounds, fears, and blockages that have held you back and replacing them with His love and peace. As He transforms your heart, you will experience a deeper connection with Him, with yourself, and with others. Your heart is being made new, and through this transformation, you are becoming the person you were always meant to be. Releasing negative emotions is a critical step in transforming pain into opportunity. Throughout our lives, we accumulate emotional baggage, resentments, regrets, fears, and guilt that often remain buried beneath the surface. These emotions can hold us hostage, preventing us from fully embracing God's healing and restoration. When we cling to negative emotions, we block the flow of God's grace and love into our lives, creating a barrier to the transformation that He desires for us. Letting go of these emotions is not only necessary for healing, but it is also an act of obedience and trust in God's divine plan. Negative emotions like bitterness, anger, resentment, and unforgiveness are powerful forces that can weigh heavily on the soul. They create spiritual, emotional, and even physical burdens that keep us trapped in cycles of pain and suffering. They taint our perspective, distort our relationships, and prevent us from experiencing the full peace and joy that God has promised. When we hold on to these emotions, we allow them to control us, to dictate how we respond to others and to how we live our lives. But God does not want us to carry this burden any longer. He calls us to release these emotions, not just for our own healing, but so that we can fully step into the divine restoration He has prepared for us. Forgiveness is perhaps the most powerful act of releasing negative emotions. Forgiveness is not about excusing the hurt or minimizing the wrongs done to us. It is about setting ourselves free from the emotional chains that bind us. When we forgive, we are no longer allowing the actions of others to have power over us. We are choosing to release the pain and hurt. And in doing so, we create space for God to heal our hearts. It's important to remember that forgiveness is not for the other person, it is for you. It is about freeing your own heart from the weight of resentment and anger. Forgiveness is also an act of surrender. It is acknowledging that the Lord is the ultimate judge and that He will make things right in His time. When we hold on to bitterness and anger, we are taking matters into our own hands, trying to control the outcome of a situation that is beyond our ability to fix. But when we surrender the need for revenge, for understanding, or for retribution, we open ourselves to God's justice and mercy. He is the one who will bring true healing and restoration, and when we trust Him with our pain, we can find peace. Forgiving others is hard, especially when the wounds are deep and the betrayal is fresh. But chosen one, remember that forgiveness is a journey, not a one-time event. It may take time, and you may need to forgive more than once. You may need to forgive yourself for mistakes you've made, and you may need to forgive others who have hurt you. But with each act of forgiveness, you are choosing to release the negative emotions that have held you back and to embrace the healing that God offers. Through forgiveness, you are setting your heart free. Releasing negative emotions also means letting go of fear. Fear, whether it is fear of failure, fear of rejection, or fear of the unknown, can keep you trapped in a cycle of pain and doubt. Fear tells you that you are not worthy, that you are not capable, and that you are not safe. But God's love casts out all fear. When you surrender your fears to Him, you are choosing to trust in His perfect love, knowing that He is in control. Fear may never fully disappear, but as you release it to God, He will replace it with peace, confidence, and hope. Guilt and shame are other powerful negative emotions that can hinder your healing process. These emotions often stem from mistakes we've made in the past, regrets that we carry, or feelings of inadequacy. But chosen one, remember that God's grace is greater than any guilt or shame you may carry. He has forgiven you, and He calls you to forgive yourself. When you continue to live in guilt, you are choosing to remain bound to the past, unable to move forward into the divine restoration God has for you. Releasing guilt means accepting God's forgiveness and embracing the new beginning that He offers. As you release these negative emotions, you are making room for God's healing power to work in your life. You are opening your heart to receive His peace, His joy, and His love. The act of letting go is not just about getting rid of the negative. It is about making space for the divine. When you choose to release bitterness, anger, guilt, and fear, you make room for God's healing touch to restore what has been broken. You allow Him to fill the empty spaces with His love, grace, and truth. Remember, chosen one, that releasing negative emotions is not a one-time act. It is a continuous process, a daily surrender to God's will. It is choosing day by day to trust that He is in control, to forgive, and to let go of the things that keep you bound. As you do, you will experience a deeper peace, a greater sense of freedom, and a renewed heart. So, chosen one, take a moment now to release the negative emotions that have been holding you back. Surrender your anger, bitterness, guilt, and fear to God, and allow Him to heal your heart. Trust that He is at work in your life, transforming your pain into divine opportunity. As you let go, you make room for His restoration to fill your life with His peace, love, and grace. Remember, chosen one, that forgiveness is not just for others, it is for you. When you release the negative emotions that weigh you down, you allow God to heal your heart and restore your life. Trust Him with your pain, and He will transform it into something beautiful. The role of gratitude in transformation cannot be underestimated. Gratitude is more than just a polite expression of thanks. It is a powerful force that has the ability to shift our entire perspective, especially in times of suffering. In the midst of pain, it can be easy to focus on what is lost, what hurts, or what seems broken in our lives. But when we choose to practice gratitude, even in the hardest of times, we begin to see the divine transformation that is taking place in and through us. Gratitude is the key that unlocks the door to peace and healing, and it turns suffering into a catalyst for spiritual growth and restoration. When we practice gratitude, we are choosing to focus on the blessings in our lives rather than on our pain. This shift in focus doesn't mean that we are ignoring or minimizing the struggles we face. It means that we are choosing to acknowledge the goodness of God, even in the midst of difficulty. Gratitude allows us to look beyond the current suffering and recognize the many ways God is at work in our lives, even when we can't yet see the full picture. It is a reminder that despite the hardships, God is faithful, and He is with us every step of the way. In 1 Thessalonians 5, chapter 18, we are told, "Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus." This verse isn't just asking us to be thankful when things are easy. It's a command to give thanks in all circumstances, even in times of suffering. Why? Because when we choose gratitude, we acknowledge that God is sovereign over our circumstances and that He is using every moment of our lives, even the painful ones, for His good purpose. Gratitude helps us align our hearts with God's will, remembering that no matter what we face, His plan for our lives is always good. Gratitude is transformative because it shifts our mindset from one of scarcity to one of abundance. When we focus on what we lack, what we have lost, or what we feel we deserve, we live in a place of deficiency. But when we practice gratitude, we open our hearts to the abundance of God's blessings, those things that we might have overlooked or taken for granted. Gratitude reminds us that despite our pain, we are surrounded by God's goodness. We have the breath in our lungs, the love of family and friends, and the hope that God is working in our lives. Even in the hardest moments, we have reasons to be thankful. Choosing gratitude in the midst of suffering is not easy. It requires a deliberate decision to shift our focus. It requires faith to look beyond our pain and see the ways God is at work in our lives. But as you choose gratitude, chosen one, you begin to open the floodgates for God's peace and healing to enter your heart. You make space for His grace to overflow into every area of your life, and you invite His restorative power to transform your pain into purpose. Gratitude also deepens our relationship with God. When we express gratitude, we are acknowledging His goodness, His faithfulness, and His love. Gratitude is a way of worshiping God, of recognizing His hand in everything we do. It keeps our hearts soft, humble, and open to His will. In moments of suffering, it can be tempting to turn away from God, to question His goodness or His presence. But when we choose gratitude, we draw closer to Him. We acknowledge that even in the midst of pain, God is still good, and He is still worthy of our praise. One of the most beautiful aspects of gratitude is that it opens the door to transformation. When we are grateful for the small things, like a beautiful sunrise, a kind word from a friend, or the simple pleasures of daily life, we begin to see life differently. Gratitude helps us see God's fingerprints in everything around us, and it deepens our awareness of His presence. It teaches us to look for the good even in the darkest moments, and to trust that God is working all things for our good, even when we can't yet understand it. Gratitude is also a powerful tool for healing. When we are in pain, it's easy to become consumed by our own thoughts and emotions. We can become fixated on what is wrong, on what we have lost, and on what we want to change. But when we practice gratitude, we shift our focus from what's lacking to what's present. We begin to see the ways God is already healing us, even in the midst of our suffering. Gratitude helps us recognize that though we may be hurting, we are never alone. We are surrounded by God's love, His mercy, and His faithfulness, and those are gifts worth celebrating. So, chosen one, I invite you to choose gratitude today. Look for the blessings in your life, even in the midst of your pain. Thank God for His love, His provision, and His healing power. Gratitude will transform your heart, your perspective, and your experience of suffering. As you practice gratitude, you will find that it opens the door to restoration, healing, and peace. You will begin to see your suffering not as a burden, but as an opportunity for growth and transformation. Remember, chosen one, that gratitude is the key that unlocks God's healing power. It shifts your focus from pain to purpose, from scarcity to abundance, and from fear to faith. Choose gratitude today and allow it to transform your heart and your life. Embracing new opportunities after pain is the divine way of moving forward. Pain, suffering, and loss often feel like a dead end, a place where dreams are shattered and the path forward is obscured by the heaviness of grief. But chosen one, the divine plan is never finished when pain enters your life. It is often the beginning of something greater. After every hardship, there is an opportunity to step into something new, something more aligned with God's divine purpose for you. The Lord doesn't allow pain to come into our lives without providing new avenues of growth, healing, and opportunity. These moments are not just endings, they are openings to new chapters, new possibilities, and new blessings. You may feel as though you've lost everything, and it may seem as though there is no way forward. But chosen one, God is a master at bringing beauty from ashes. The very thing that you thought would break you is often the thing that God uses to make you whole again. When you face suffering and loss, it is easy to see only the destruction in front of you. But God's perspective is always different. He sees the end result. He knows the new opportunities that are being formed in the midst of your pain, and He is calling you to move forward, trusting that His plan is greater than the hurt you feel now. The divine opportunity that arises from pain comes in many forms. It may be the opportunity to grow in your faith, to learn new lessons about yourself, or to step into a new season of purpose. It may come in the form of relationships being healed, new doors being opened, or renewed strength and resilience that you never thought you had. When we embrace new opportunities after pain, we choose to believe that God is working all things together for our good, even when we cannot yet see the outcome. It is about trusting that God's restoration will come in ways that exceed our expectations. One of the most powerful aspects of embracing new opportunities after pain is that it requires faith. It requires you to step forward even when you cannot see the full path ahead. It is easy to stay in a place of comfort or to resist change when you're hurting. The temptation to remain where you are, whether that's in grief, in fear, or in isolation, can be strong. But God is calling you to take that step of faith, to trust that He is leading you towards something better. You do not need to see the entire road ahead. You only need to take the next step, knowing that God will guide you the rest of the way. New opportunities after pain also involve healing. The suffering you've experienced is not a mark of defeat, but an invitation to heal more fully. Healing doesn't happen overnight, and it's not always easy, but it is through the process of healing that you are prepared to step into the new opportunities that God is placing before you. When we heal from the wounds of the past, we become more open to receiving the blessings that God has prepared. Healing makes space for new joy, new relationships, and new possibilities. It restores you to wholeness, preparing you to walk into the future with hope and confidence. God's word promises that He will never leave you in the place of pain. In Isaiah 43:19, God says, "See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it, even when you can't see it?" God is doing a new thing in your life. Every moment of pain and suffering is working toward this new thing, this new season of blessing and restoration. God does not waste anything, chosen one. Your pain, your loss, your suffering, all of it is part of the divine process that is leading you toward a new season, a new opportunity, and a new level of restoration. As you embrace these new opportunities, remember that they come with responsibility. The new season you are stepping into is not just for your own benefit, it is for the fulfillment of your divine calling. God has been preparing you for this moment, and as you step into the new, you are being equipped to serve, to lead, and to bless others. The opportunities that come after pain are not just opportunities for personal growth. They are opportunities for you to reflect God's love, grace, and restoration to the world around you. The divine opportunities that follow pain often challenge us to stretch beyond our comfort zones. They require courage to walk into the unknown, faith to trust in God's provision, and strength to embrace the changes that are coming. But these opportunities are also the ones that lead to the greatest fulfillment and joy. When you step forward in faith, trusting that God is leading you, you will find that the blessings are far greater than what you lost. So, chosen one, I encourage you to embrace the new opportunities that are coming your way. Trust that even in the aftermath of pain, God is doing something new in your life. Take the step of faith, knowing that the future He has for you is far greater than the past you are leaving behind. You are being restored not only to wholeness, but to divine purpose. Remember, chosen one, that every moment of pain is preparing you for the divine opportunities ahead. Step forward in faith, trust in God's plan, and embrace the new season of restoration and purpose that He is bringing into your life. The divine promise of restoration is not a vague notion. It is a certainty grounded in the very character of God. Throughout Scripture, God makes it clear that He is the restorer of all things. He restores our hearts, our spirits, our relationships, and even our physical bodies. The promise of restoration is woven through the Bible, a thread that binds the stories of brokenness and renewal, pain and healing. Chosen one, your restoration is a divine guarantee, and it is part of God's perfect plan for your life. No matter how deep the loss, no matter how overwhelming the pain, God's promise to restore what was lost stands firm. The promise of restoration is not just about returning to what was. It is about returning to something greater, something more aligned with God's will for your life. When we think of restoration, we often imagine a return to the past, a restoration of what was taken or lost. But God's restoration is not about returning to what was. It's about transforming what was lost into something more beautiful, more refined and more purposeful. Just as the prodigal son was restored to his father's house, but was given a new robe, a ring and a feast, so too does God restore us not only to the place where we once were, but to something better, something more aligned with His divine plan. In Joel 2:25, God promises, "I will restore to you the years that the swarming locust has eaten, the hopper, the destroyer, and the cutter, my great army, which I sent among you." This verse speaks of God's promise to restore what has been lost to years of hardship, to the ravages of time, to the things that have eaten away at us. God promises to restore even those things that feel irreparable, even those parts of us that seem beyond hope. The years of loss, the pain, the struggles, they are not forgotten by God. He sees them, He understands them, and He has a plan to restore them. Every hardship you've faced is part of a larger story, and in God's timing, He will restore what has been taken, making it whole again, and often better than it was before. Restoration is not just a promise for the future, it is happening right now. Even as you walk through your struggles, God is at work in the background, orchestrating His divine plan for your life. It may not be immediately visible, but trust that God's restoration is already underway. You may not see the full picture, but God sees it all, and He is working everything together for your good. When you feel discouraged, remember that restoration often takes time. The healing of your heart, the renewal of your spirit, the repair of broken relationships, these things take time to come to fruition. But know that they are happening in God's perfect timing, and His timing is always right. The process of restoration is also one of redemption. When God restores us, He doesn't just put things back together as they were. He redeems them. Redemption is the act of taking something that was broken, lost, or wasted and making it new again. It is the divine act of turning our pain into purpose, our mistakes into lessons, and our brokenness into wholeness. God redeems all things, including the suffering you have endured. Your pain, chosen one, is not wasted. It is part of God's plan to redeem you, to bring you into a new season of purpose and fulfillment. Through this process of redemption, you will not only be restored, but you will also be transformed into someone who reflects God's love and grace more fully. When you are restored, you are not just healed, you are also made whole in a way that allows you to step into a new chapter of your life with a renewed sense of purpose. Restoration allows you to see yourself through God's eyes, to understand your worth, and to step forward in confidence, knowing that you are not defined by your past, but by God's grace and His plan for your life. In the process of restoration, God brings you to a place where you are fully equipped to walk in your divine calling with strength, wisdom, and peace. It's important to note that restoration does not mean that everything will go back to the way it was. Sometimes the restoration that God brings looks different than what we expected, but it is always better. God does not simply put us back where we were. He takes us to a place of greater strength, understanding, and alignment with His divine will. When God restores, He makes all things new, and that newness is far greater than anything we could have imagined. The promise of restoration is ultimately about God's faithfulness to His people. He does not abandon us in our pain, and He does not leave us in our brokenness. No matter how dark the days may seem, no matter how heavy the burden, God is with us. His promise to restore is unbreakable, and His timing is perfect. You are not alone in your suffering, and God has already begun the work of restoring you, preparing you for the future He has planned. Trust in His promise, and know that what He restores will be more beautiful, more powerful, and more fulfilling than anything you could have imagined. So, chosen one, rest in the assurance that God is restoring what was lost. Trust in His divine promise, knowing that His plan for you is far greater than your past pain. His restoration is already at work in your life, and it will bring you to a place of greater purpose, joy, and fulfillment than you have ever known. Remember, chosen one, that God's restoration is not just a future promise, it is happening right now. Trust in His timing, trust in His plan, and trust that He will restore all things in His perfect way. Affirming your transformation is the final empowering step in the journey of turning suffering into opportunity. The transformation you've undergone is not something to be dismissed or forgotten. It is something to be acknowledged, celebrated, and embraced. The process has shaped you, refined you, and prepared you to step into a new season of life, one that is filled with purpose, joy, and divine alignment. To affirm your transformation is to declare with confidence that you are not the same person you were before the pain, but a new creation, stronger, wiser, and more aligned with the divine purpose God has set before you. Affirmation is a powerful tool, chosen one. It is the act of declaring the truth of who you are and who you are becoming in the face of everything that has tried to define you. It's easy to let pain, loss, or doubt shape your identity, but the truth is that your identity is not defined by what you've suffered. It is defined by who you are in Christ. When you affirm your transformation, you are choosing to see yourself through God's eyes, not through the lens of past pain or failure. You are declaring that the past no longer holds you captive, and that you are moving forward with confidence, knowing that God has made you whole. In 2 Corinthians chapter 5:17, the Bible reminds us, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come, the old has gone, the new is here." This is the divine affirmation of transformation. In Christ, the old is gone. The pain, the mistakes, the regrets, they do not define you anymore. The new creation that has come is the person God has been shaping through the trials, the suffering, and the restoration process. Your transformation is not a temporary change. It is a permanent shift that brings you into alignment with God's greater purpose for your life. Affirming your transformation also means recognizing the work that God has already done in you. You are not the same person you were before your suffering. Your heart has been healed, your mind renewed, and your spirit restored. The trials you faced have not broken you, they have built you. They have refined you and prepared you for the blessings that are about to come. Your transformation is not just about what you've lost, it's about who you've become in the process. And this new version of you is ready to step into everything God has for you. To affirm your transformation is also to declare that the work of restoration is ongoing. While you have made great strides, there are still greater heights for you to reach, greater purpose for you to fulfill, and deeper levels of healing and growth to experience. The journey of transformation is never truly over. It is an ongoing process of becoming more aligned with God's will for your life. And with each step you take, you move closer to the fullness of the restoration God has promised you. Your affirmation is not just about you. It is a declaration of God's goodness and faithfulness. When you affirm the transformation that has occurred in your life, you are giving glory to God for the work He has done. You are a living testimony of His power to heal, restore, and make all things new. Your life, once broken and burdened by pain, is now a reflection of His divine love and grace. Your transformation is a witness to others that God can and will restore what was lost, and that He is in the business of making all things new. As you affirm your transformation, chosen one, take a moment to reflect on all that you have overcome. Think of the struggles, the hardships, and the moments of doubt, and now see how far you've come. You are no longer the person who was defined by your pain. You are now defined by God's grace and His divine purpose for your life. Celebrate how much you've grown, how much you've learned, and how much closer you've become to the person God has always meant for you to be. Affirming your transformation also means trusting that the best is yet to come. The restoration that God has been working in your life is not just about fixing the brokenness, it is about taking you to a place of greater fulfillment and purpose. As you step into this new season of life, remember that God has greater things in store for you than you could ever imagine. You are entering a new chapter, one that is filled with opportunities for growth, service, and divine blessing. Your transformation has prepared you for what is ahead, and you are now equipped to walk boldly into the future that God has prepared for you. So, chosen one, I encourage you to affirm your transformation. Declare with confidence that you are a new creation made whole through God's love, grace, and restoration. Acknowledge the work that God has already done in your life and trust that He is not finished with you yet. Embrace the person you have become and step forward in faith, knowing that the best is yet to come. Your transformation is a testament to God's goodness, and it is a declaration that His work in your life is far from over. Remember, chosen one, that your transformation is a divine act of God's grace. Affirm it, celebrate it, and trust that God will continue His work in your life. You are not who you once were. You are a new creation, fully restored and ready for what God has prepared for you next. As we close this journey, chosen one, let your heart be at peace. The transformation you've gone through is complete, and the divine work that God has done in you is a lasting, permanent change. Remember that each moment of suffering, each step of pain has been part of a greater purpose, your restoration. And as you move forward, trust that the pain is not wasted. Every hardship has shaped you, refined you, and prepared you for the abundant life God has in store for you. Now, as you rest in this divine truth, let go of all doubt and fear. Let your soul be at peace, knowing that God is continuing His work in you. You are restored, chosen one. You are loved, you are healed, and you are ready for the new opportunities that await you. Your transformation is complete, and with God by your side, you will walk forward in strength, joy, and purpose. Take a moment to breathe deeply, to feel the presence of God surrounding you, filling you with peace and guiding you toward the future He has prepared for you. Let the journey of restoration continue in your heart, knowing that with every step you take, you are becoming more aligned with the divine purpose for your life. Rest in this truth, chosen one, and trust that the best is yet to come. Sweet dreams of the divine opportunities that await you.